then we will have it double covered. Well, welcome. Welcome to our Set Your Destination Masterclass today. It is our pleasure to be here and spend 45 minutes with you to talk about how you set destinations, chart a course, navigate some time, put all those pieces together. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So this, for example, is a Latara creation, is our little guy setting his destination.
Very nice.
I love it. Well, hang on. We have somebody coming. Great. This is an interesting opportunity right this second.
Alice, I'm going to mute myself.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so we're going to talk about setting your destination. So what is your destination? How will you get there? How you can identify some of your most productive times of day? What does all that, where does all that time go? What are you doing with all those hours in a day? We'll talk about pulling all those things together. So your destination can be your goals. So SMART goals are one way to set goals, and make sure you're keeping all the pieces together. So S, of course, is for specific. We're going to set very specific goals. We want to make them measurable. So you can say, I want more clients, but what does that mean, right? How many more clients? Is it something that's achievable? What have you done before? Is it relevant to your overall game plan? So in this example, more revenue is the overall game plan. So more clients is definitely a piece of that puzzle. And time bound. At what point are we going to do that? So this example could be, we're going to sign 10 new clients a month for the next quarter. So we have something that's specific and measurable. We're using 10. We're using in the next month for each month for the next quarter. But let's talk about achievable for a minute. So one piece of achievable is to look at what you've accomplished before. So in this example, 10 was what the goal was originally set at, but when talking to that client, 6 is as many as he had ever done in 1 month, was to sign 6 new clients. So we adjusted that goal to be 8 for this first round. So a little bit of a stretch from where he was, but not so far that it might not be achievable. So you want to be in that middle zone of not just staying same old, but being able to stretch a little bit, but still be achievable and being able to celebrate that accomplishment. So having the goal set, then how are we going to get there? What are we going to do to take care of that? And one thing I always like to do is also at the same time, identify any obstacles that might be in the way of getting to that goal. Because if you think about those obstacles ahead of time before they actually pop up, it gives you a much more secure way to make sure that you have taken care of them. So in this example, you set the goal, think about some obstacles. So with our example of signing 8 more clients, an obstacle might be time. Is there enough time to do the prospecting work? Avenues to find prospects. And then start identifying some of those solutions could be making sure you plan for that time on your calendar and it's not negotiable. Brainstorming with somebody who does marketing or some other advertising avenues to look at what are some ways to make sure I'm finding people to talk to, which can be part of those action items, right? And then you can look at, if you are looking to sign 8 more clients, how many people does that mean you need to talk to end up with 8 that sign up? And then your action plan, you would identify those numbers and then plan accordingly, right? So if you need to talk to 20 people to end up with 8 clients, you need to plan for that time and we're going to find the 20 people to talk to. Owner, of course, is who was responsible for taking that action step. So it's either you, or if you have anybody to delegate to or a VA you're working with that could be in that spot. And then setting the date that that work needs to be done by. So really planning, thinking about it, what are the steps that need to happen, who is going to do it, or what. A resource could also be where is that coming from, not just a person doing it, and then having that target date set. The computer doesn't want to advance. Okay, so that's getting that destination, that goal set. One thing that will help you get there is to look at what's your most productive time of day. Typical people have ultradian rhythms as far as when they're productive at their top performance, when they tend to lag, reset a little bit, be a top performer again, and then kind of sink through. A typical cycle is a 90-minute cycle of being productive and then having to rest. I've done this with tons of different people and none of them were typical. It's always a little bit different, a little bit specific to you. So one way that we work on that is to actually track what you're doing throughout a day. What are you doing? How do you feel about it? Are you focused? Are you enthusiastic? Are you energized? Or are you minds wandering all over the place? Can't stay focused? Really not interested in working right now? So we keep track of what those feelings are and then what you are actually doing. As you track that and start to look at it, you'll start to find trends for yourself. It can be trend by time of day. It can be trend of time of day by day. That beginning of the week, you're enthusiastic all day. By Thursday, you are not enthusiastic all day. Everybody has their own cycle. So one thing to do is figure that out for yourself. Because that's going to help you plan your day and put the tasks that require that focus in a time of day where you are focused. Now, sometimes you have to do things at a time of day that is not your most productive time of day because not everybody works under our rhythm, right? So I love this example. I'm a night owl. I can't talk to people necessarily at 8 o'clock at night. Now, there's some, there are also night owls or some that are in a different time zone and that works. But if I need to do some of that work in the afternoon, I have to kind of pump myself up for that. I listen to some great rock and roll music right beforehand. I do something that gets my juices flowing, kind of gets me more enthusiastic, upbeat, and then I'm better able to do those tasks and stay focused at the same time. So part of this is finding the things that work for you. Now we're going to talk about, since we just spent some time tracking what we're spending our time doing, do we need to be doing all those things? So we call this the 4 Ds. So you've got that great list of things you were doing when you tracked your time. The first thing to look at is there anything that can be deleted? Are there things that you tend to do that are just because you always did them? Are they still serving you based on what your goals are today? So that's kind of the first criteria, is to search through the things you're doing and get rid of the ones you don't need. Then 2, are there things that can be delegated? Are there things that can be delegated to a VA type person or outsourced to a service? Now, one of the great examples here is accounting and doing your bookkeeping. Is that something that requires your expertise? Or is it something that you can spend your time on signing clients and pay a service to do that kind of work? So it's looking at the things that you have that are left after deleting that still need to happen, but is there a different resource or a more qualified resource to do it? Keep remembering what your time is worth. So if you're struggling to do a task because it's not your skill set, you don't enjoy doing it, it takes you 5 times longer than if you just sent it to a bookkeeper who, that's what they do, right? They're going to do a lot faster than you are. So those are some things to think about, is the things that need to happen but don't need you. Then we cross over to the left side. These are things that do need your expertise. So the first question is, what is the time it needs to be done by? Is it something you need to do today, tomorrow, this week? Or is it a task that actually can be done next week or next month? Because that's another way to sort your time and make sure you're spending on the things that are most relevant today versus things that you could do next week and you're distracting yourself by doing them instead of what you should be doing today. Does that make sense? And then of course, the do it is things that require your expertise and need to be done now. And again, all these things are looked at with the lens of what your goals are as well, right? Because that's how you can decide, is it something that needs to happen now? Or is that something I can do next week because it's not contributing to my goals today? Then we're going to kind of throw all this work together, right? All this great things that you've taken a look at and start plotting on your schedule the things that need you. Start planning how to delegate the things that you don't need to do. And we're admitting another participant. The things that you don't need to do, that's another piece of that plan, right? Keeping with our example of deciding that you should outsource your bookkeeping, those would be some tasks on that goal sheet, right? Researching what you need, who has the best service at the best price, right? And then reaching out and starting that relationship. Taking a little bit of time to plan saves time in the long run, because you know what you're going to do and how to do it and when to do it. You save that time. You're standing around going, what should I do next? I've got an hour now. What makes sense for me to do? Prepping either the night before for your day or the morning of. Again, what's your preferred work style? Using me as an example, again, being a night owl, I prep at night all the time before the next day. And then I don't have to worry about the morning because I'm not a morning person. But doing that little plan ahead and looking a week out every day you do that. One of the reasons for that is if you have a meeting next week that you really should do some prep for, and that prep requires some time, you gotta make sure that's on this week's calendar, right? So it's always looking ahead to make sure that you have built in that work time. I find out for a lot of my clients that work time thing is something they don't readily plan for. So if there's work you need to do, be prepared for a proposal for a meeting or write a report or have done some research about the client's business before you meet with them, or I should say the prospect's business before you meet with them, you want to plan the time to do those things to make sure that they actually get done and you're prepared. Don't schedule over it, move it. And what I mean by that is you did all this work to figure out what you should be doing, what you need to do, and putting it on your calendar. If you need to move something, because a lot of us have clients of some type, right? So sometimes there is an urgent issue that needs to be addressed. That doesn't mean just cancel what you were supposed to be doing at that time, move it into a different spot. Because if you've done the work to make sure what's on your calendar needs to be on your calendar, you don't want to just start scheduling over it. If you see over time that you keep scheduling over the spot and it's not that important, then it probably doesn't need to be on your calendar anymore, and that gets slower than delete bucket. Having a daily checklist, and that's part of that prep, either the night before or the day of, morning of. Making sure you know those things you want to for sure get done today, and then be able to check them off. Lots of times we have tons of stuff rolling around in our heads, and if we don't write them down or keep track of them in some way, you end up at the end of your day without having gotten anything done. The parking lot. I absolutely love the concept of the parking lot. So the parking lot idea is that when something comes to mind, but is not what you're doing right now, like a phone call you should make or something you should look up or an email you need to send, but you're in the middle of working on a project, that parking lot is a great place to write those things down. So you get it off your mind, you know that someplace you're going to see it, so it's not distracting you from getting this work done right now. And then that's one of the things I do in my nightly kind of review is check what was on the parking lot and either do it or put it in the spot it belongs. And that way you're not worried about forgetting something or losing track of a great idea. Sometimes that happens when I'm teaching a class. I think of another great idea for a class based on questions or something, and I can just make a note of it and come back to it later and put that on, next month's work to do. And then having a timer. This is great for a couple different reasons. clients I work with sometimes are easily distracted. And they use the timer to say, I'm going to work for 20 minutes and get this done. And they can go take a break and come back and focus. Or the opposite. People get really embedded in what they're doing. They're having a great time. They enjoy their work. And all of a sudden 2 hours has passed and they should have been doing something else by now. So you set the timer to make sure you check in with yourself in 40 minutes or an hour. Okay, I can spend another hour. Oh, nope, I have to go back and do this other stuff. So the timer can help you stay on track with either opportunity. So take the first step. We talked about a lot of stuff today, lots of different ideas that you can go off and implement. So pick one thing. What's the first next step that you want to do? Do you want to set a goal? What a great time of year to be setting your 2023 goals, right? So set one of those destinations, one of those goals. Make a plan for one of the goals that you've already set. You know, determine what your productive time of day is. Some people have a sense for it, and some people it's like a revelation when they go through this process and figure out what it really is. Start using one of the tools and tips we just talked about on the previous page, or what resonated with you today. What is that first step you want to take for yourself and get started? So you can go and do those things, or you of course can, we can work together. So we have a couple other classes coming up and we'd like to talk about that for a minute here. The first one is charting your course. So this is a 3-hour workshop where we're actually going to do the work of charting that course and working on those plans. So it's a group session for 3 hours, and we actually do the work during those 3 hours. And then we can talk about it, solve some issues you might have when you're trying to set it, talk about that achievability piece during that session, and kind of get you set up for the next quarter. The other course is that time navigation course. So in that course, we actually do the work of tracking your time for a week, doing the analysis of that for you about what is your productive time of day, talk about things that can help you with the things you need to do that are not productive. One of my favorite examples is a client I have who was finding that afternoons was just that dragging point in his day. One of the things that we did is move his workout time to afternoon. He used to do it in the morning on his way to work. Change it to be a break in the afternoon was a great opportunity. He was so much more productive when he came back from that. The taking a break, the physical exercise, the leaving the building, really energized him again. So his afternoons got very productive. The other thing we noticed when we tracked his time is how much time he was losing when he worked in the office. A lot of that camaraderie, people stopping by to chat, and when he's tracking his time, he's like, I can't believe how much time I lose by talking to people. So the other thing we did with his schedule is kind of move around when he goes to the office. So he starts his day at home and works at home on things that require some focus and concentration, and then goes into the office. And that made a big difference in his productivity as well. So it's really being able to look at those things that come up on your time navigation and helping you work around those and put them all together. So the opportunity we have today, because you guys are here, which is spectacular, is we're going to do a 2-for-1 opportunity. If you want to take both of those courses, it'll be $97, and the link is on the slide. And I bet Latara can pop that in the chat as well. So that is a 2-for-1 opportunity, both courses for $97, and you get that do it with you, do it together opportunity as well. So thank you guys for your participation and attention today. I hope you got some good nuggets. I try to make sure that there's value in the free courses that we do because I want you to have some things that you learn you can actually go off and do as well. Or again, if you want that work with you opportunity, you can sign up for one of the workshops. Always feel free to reach out to me, whether I've got my contact information here, a phone, email, or go out and check out the website. And oh my gosh, Latara's raised her hand. Latara?
Okay, so I actually have 2 questions.
Yes.
Well, it's the same question, but 2 different parameters. The first one is when it comes to trying to figure out if you have multiple tasks to work on, which one do you do first, the biggest task or the smallest task? And then my second question is, do you do your favorite thing first or your least favorite thing first?
Well, that is a good question, Latara. And that's part of why I like working with people to figure out their rhythms. Because it actually does depend. Different people have different natural tendencies. So I personally, I try to do the thing I don't want to do first, because I can get it off the plate and not hang around all day bothering me. But there's some people that, the other thing about that is, but is it an afternoon kind of task, right? So the first is your natural tendency. Again, mine is to do the things I don't want to do. Otherwise, it just bothers me all day that, oh my God, I got to get this phone call made or whatever it is, right? Biggest versus smallest, part of that depends on an individual's focus point, right? If you're able to focus for an hour and be productive at a time, then you can start with that big thing and again, get that off your plate. But for some people, the focus doesn't work that way. So they need to chunk it into smaller pieces and kind of look at that logical way to do it. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Well, you're very welcome. Any other questions? Cool. Well, feel free to take a picture of the screen so you have my contact info if you don't have it already. And again, thank you for joining us today. I very much appreciate it. And have a great rest of your week.
Thank you, Alice.
Thank you, Greta. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Bill. You're muted if you thought you were talking.
Oh, hi, Alice.
Hi, Bill. Thanks for joining.
Still trying to figure out Zoom.
Well, hey, but I can see you.
Yeah.
So it was
Sorry
good.
I was late. The roads are an absolute mess, so.
All right.
Oh my goodness.
I was wondering about that. My goal is not to be on the road today.
That's a good goal.
Well, be safe if you have more inspections to go out and do.
Yes.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Nice to see you.